Hi everyone, I am Alex, and this is a tank tested live stream. Sitting next to me is my friend Kevin Kelly of Brooklyn Hardscape. Today we're going to be taking a look at 3 aquariums in his shop. So let's get started with the first. We're going to get nice and picture, and Kevin can give us a little tour. And you guys feel free to chime in with questions, and I'll try to prompt Kevin through the tours of all of these lovely aquariums. So, boom. Right off the bat, we've got this close-up video of a tank right behind us. Kevin, can you tell us a little bit about this aquarium?
The name of the aquarium is Estris. It's about a mid-level tank. It's a Blackstone that I originally got from Rachel O'Leary. White sand, just pool filter sand. Plants from left is mini Vietnam. It's Aromatica, mini Aromatica. And then it's Macrandra mini type 4. And then some unknown green plants on the right. And then it's the super mini Catherine as a carpet in the front.
Cool. So I just want to say hello to everyone. There are lots of people saying hello. Hello from Hawaii. So,
Ooh.
you know, we're reaching near and far, and Brazil.
Hello, Brazil.
Hello. Let's start with some basic facts about this tank. How large is this tank?
It's an 8845P.
So what does that translate to?
So it's 18 inches by, is it 10 inches?
Okay.
By 12 inches tall?
And it's about 9 or 10 gallons?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a pretty small tank. That's a pretty, affordable tank if you want to build your own aquarium, because you don't have that much hardscape. You don't have that many plants involved.
No, it's true. I prefer nanos. I'd rather have 20 nanos than one big tank.
Yeah. In the background, we've got some lovely pieces of equipment in the tank. A lot of those are things that I don't use in my tanks. I generally don't use CO2. And I certainly don't have that lovely aeration bell in the background. And I don't use lily pipes because I'm cheap. Can you introduce us to all of those little tools that are in that tank?
Sure.
And before you do, I'm going to make our picture-in-picture go away for just a minute. Bye. All right, so let's start with that little thing in the upper left-hand corner. What is that?
It's called a DEW device. It's by Viv. It's an aeration belt. It helps with a lot of things, controls the surface, scum at the top. The tank is fairly new. It's not even a month old, or is a month old. So it's still going through a lot of growing pains. So we're having like a little bit of an oil slick on top of the water. It's normal. I use the lily pipes and the aeration belt to control it.
Yeah, so explain more, what does the aeration belt do? Because that's not something that I am really familiar with. Is it doing the same thing as, say, an air stone?
It's exactly like an air stone, but it's a bell, so it holds some air, but it still has a little bit, where it's not, some of the air escapes, some of it goes into the water. I'm going to be having rainbow fish in there in a little bit.
Okay.
And, I don't want to gas them because I have CO2 pumping. And I like to get my CO2 really high. So a little bit of aeration helps keep everything nice and healthy. It's on 24/7, so you also get a little bit of aeration at night. I also like the fact that because of the motion of the bubbles going upwards, the way the tank is set up in the back portion, it's kind of like a dead zone a little bit. A lot of detritus gets stuck there, so if the bubble's moving upwards, it actually sucks up a lot of detritus so that it can rotate around the tank and get sucked in by the intake.
Cool. I'm going to bring us back in for a second. So just a quick prompt. If you guys have any questions or thoughts about this tank, post them in the comments, and I will try to ask Kevin. So we also have a CO2 diffuser in the foreground there of the tank, and now we have a slightly wider shot, and we can see some of the tools that you used next to the tank as well. Why? You know that I don't generally use that much CO2, which I'm sure irks you.
No.
What's the case for using CO2 in this tank? Because what you've got in this tank, I mean, the beautiful foreground plant, the plant that's growing on those rocks, and you can see a couple of rubber bands holding them down, which we'll get to in a bit. That's Boost.
Mm-hmm.
Boost does pretty well in low tech tanks.
Oh, I think
so.
It's great.
So why does this tank even need CO2?
Well, this is a shop, so everything in the shop is always for sale. Because I have a store, and if I wanted to make sure to get this tank to grow as quickly as possible. Have a customer come in, they like the tank, they can buy it. I'd rather have the tank all grown in, and it's just about making it grow fast. So this is the light on there that's temporary. The light that was on it before burned out. I'm waiting for a new one. But yeah, it's all about speed of growth, health of plants. Like, plants consume a lot of CO2, and I like things to grow fast because I'm a very impatient man when it comes to these things.
Yeah. All right. So, question: does that bell make a lot of noise?
It makes no noise.
Yeah, I can confirm. Being in the, I mean, you're in the room with it right now. There are, I'm going to say, 20-ish tanks around us right now. I'm sure you can hear a lot of them, but you can't hear that air bubbler.
It's one of my favorite devices. It's not a big seller, unfortunately, so sometimes I look at them longingly and I just might throw them in all my tanks and just not sell them anymore.
They're really cool. I mean, they're a beautiful addition to a tank. They're way prettier than an air stone.
Yes.
And if they do the same thing as an air stone, I mean, they are more expensive than a $1.99 air stone.
It's true.
But
less mess.
And substantially prettier. So if you have 20 tanks, maybe not go with them. But if you've got one show tank in your living room that you really want to show off, that's a great way to class up the tank a little bit.
And they're good for any tank up to 30 gallons.
Yeah.
So.
While we're still in the wide shot, you've got a collection of tools on the left-hand side of the tank. What are they?
Oh, I have my. Let's see. I'm gonna look over.
Yeah, you want to go get the collection?
Okay.
All right. So, since this video is about to run out, we're gonna cycle back to this video again because I really want to go into detail on this tank because it's really cool. This tank is about a month old?
About a month old.
Yeah. So this is only a month-old tank. I think it looks really great. So we're going to...
And it's been rescaped
yeah.
once. I tore it apart and rescaped it.
We're going to go back to this video because I want to really dive into it. But first, let's talk about some of the tools that Kevin has next to his tank.
These are my everyday maintenance tools.
Yeah. Bear with me. I'm going to make us nice and big so that they can actually see what you're showing off.
This is an Aqua Rebel. I picked it up when I was in Germany. It's an Aqua Rebel stand. So I just go through them?
Yeah, let's go through them.
So these are the tools that I use every single day.
Let's go through this one.
That's
what are we looking at here?
It's a baster.
Yeah. So I have I assume this is just from like a grocery store or a kitchen shop.
$1.99.
Yeah. So this is not an aquascaping tool. This is a kitchen tool, and I have one as well.
It's one of the most important tools.
It might be the most important tool, other than a pair of scissors.
I mean, if you're growing moss, there's no reason. If you don't have one and you're growing moss, then you should just stop growing moss.
Why?
Well, detritus. Moss is detritus. It's a mop. It's just a big mop, sucks up dirt. You got to use the base to keep it clean. Otherwise you get like a buildup of organics, and then you get algae, and you're like, why do they get algae? Especially BBA. BBA loves that stuff.
Have you seen the technique of having your siphon hose and a secondary?
I use that.
hose?
I have a vacuum like that in the back.
Do you actually have it with you?
It might be, or it might be in the car.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk through that because I'm mentioning it. So there's a really lovely technique that kind of embraces what we're talking about of keeping your plants that are really prone to collecting detritus clean, and that's
fits in the tubing perfectly.
Yeah.
So you hook it up and the tubing goes there.
So basically you have your siphon that's siphoning off water, and then you have a second tube or baster that you use to blow water directly into the path of the siphon. So you disturb everything so that then you can just siphon all that detritus right out and it doesn't resettle back in your tank.
I have mine hooked up to a canister filter.
It's a really nice, simple way of getting crap out of your tank. And not having to do it over and over and over where you're just blowing detritus from one section of the tank to another. Yeah, so that's that tool. Next up, let's go through, sorry, I'm now reading comments. Let's go with this tool. So this little almost spatula frying spatula looking thing.
My little sand flattener.
Yeah, what is this?
So this is another one of my trips overseas. Another one that I picked up. I get spoiled.
Yeah.
So this is the JBL ProScape tool. It's got it's heavy duty. It's taken a lot of beatings. I've sat on it a bunch of times. I'm a big guy, and but it's great for flattening the sand. It's also like one of my favorite things to do. I like hair grass a lot. I'm a big hair grass fan.
Me too. I love carpets.
I love carpets too. And this is like the best tool. It's like broad.
You're out of shot.
Nope.
This is the best tool.
This is the best part of it. It's broad. It's thick. When you're planting hair grass, my favorite thing to do is I lay the hair grass down, almost planted, and then I use this to just like pound it into the substrate.
Yeah.
It's like the perfect tool for it.
And the thing that actually drew my attention, I've never seen this particular one before. What drew my attention is often you'll see these, and this is basically just a giant paddle. And when you're moving it around in your tank, you're blowing everything around. And it's got these nice little slits cut in it so that you reduce the drag, which I thought was a really cool innovation. I've never seen it before. So, I thought that was a really, really cool development. It's also way thicker than most of these tools that I've seen before.
It's heavy duty. It's meant to be used,
Yeah.
like it's, and I like the thickness, and it's got, it's squared. It's not, like you said it wasn't tapered, but I mean, you still have a nice edge.
Do you know how much that thing runs generally?
40 euros?
Yes. So pricey. Much pricier than most people are used to spending on stuff. Yeah. But it's pretty cool. All right,
do it next.
We'll return back to this in a bit because I want to go back to our video of the tank because we've got a couple of questions about the tank. So I'm going to make us nice and small again. And
Jay Williams is on.
I know. And boom, we're back into black. Perfect. That's just what I wanted. I wanted us to be real small.
I like black.
I'm less excited by this. All right, I'm going to make us big again. Bear with me. All right, we're big again. Come on. These are the type of technical difficulties I'm sure you guys tune in for. Nailed it. Again, nailed it.
People like to plug their websites, huh?
That's just me plugging my website over and
what
over and
a
over.
jerk.
I know. All right, guys. I am going to remove that video. I'm going to reattach it. And we're going to go on a wild ride once again. So, patter for me, Kevin. Where is this shop located? So we're at Brooklyn Hardscape, which is suspiciously in Brooklyn, New York, is my understanding.
We're in Bushwick, Brooklyn. It's an appointment-only shop, so don't try to come by without an invite or an appointment. It's because we're in a warehouse, and this is not a retail location. Right now, it's going to be our shop is in 3 pieces.
Continue.
Oh, okay.
We've got time. Sorry this video is a little dark, but continue.
Right, we're still doing construction. So right now, the showroom is also our grow-out room. But looking for more scapes. We're hoping to have, I think the goal is 20 aquascapes in this room.
Nice. It also sounds like someone is just like having a dance party upstairs. It's great. We just hear high heels walking around constantly.
Yeah. I think there's an artist that lives upstairs.
Gotcha. Well, that's okay. It's an appointment-only shop. Sorry that you might hear people wandering around in the background. So yeah, we're in Brooklyn, New York, and they can find your shop online at brooklynhardscape.com or
Yep, brooklynhardscape.com.
Yep. Brooklynhardscape.com.
We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Yelp.
Yeah. So there is a link in the description to their website, or to Kevin's website. I don't right now have a link to his social media, but by the time this is recorded, that will be there. So we're now looking at this tank again. I'm going to make us disappear so that we can get a better look. And I want to talk through a couple of things and answer a couple of questions people have had about it. So first off, let's see, we've got some questions. Why is the drop checker black? It's probably just dark blue.
Okay, so CO2, like any given atmosphere or liquid, it can only support so many gases being dissolved. It looks like there's a lot of CO2 being pumped in the tank, but at the moment there isn't. I just took it all the way down, and I'm bringing it back up slowly. So,
yeah. All right. So it's not at high concentration of CO2 yet.
I put my my output. I always put up a really high psi, so it looks like a lot. So it's at 40 psi right now.
Cool. What's the tiny boost plant in the foreground there?
Super mini Catherine.
Tell me more about it.
I don't know anything about it. That's all I know.
Cool. All right. So this is a quality live stream that literally delivers great content.
I mean, it's a small rhizome plant from Borneo. The leaves are about 3/4 of a centimeter in length. It grows really, really slow. And that's,
yeah, and it's hard to find. Right?
Really hard to find, impossible to find. That's actually all I've seen in a long time.
Yeah. So interesting thing about that, if you look at the shot, you can see a couple of rubber bands holding that boost down, and that's because this is a pretty new tank. But Kevin does not use super glue in this tank. I would just glue the rhizomes to the rocks and walk away and be happy with that.
Super glue is only for putting together a hardscape.
Yeah. So explain that, because I disagree with you, but you also have more experience than me, so we can fight off screen about this.
There's a couple of different reasons. I mean, I don't like damaging the rhizomes with super glue, and it's really easy to do. And also, I have a background in chemistry, so I'm constantly concerned about what other additive chemicals are added when you're having. I mean, you're creating the water into carbonic acid, and it's even though doesn't seem like it's very corrosive, it's acid rain. We all know what damage acid rain does, and over time the glue will break down. It'll have a chemical reaction. There's just too many unknown variables. With the stone, I don't know anything about the stone. I know it's highly reactive to vinegar and muric acid, but I don't know its chemical composition. You add that with carbonic acid and whatever extra components are in the super glue. And you don't know what you're getting.
So for you, you're saying you'd rather be safe than sorry on
Yes.
this. Whereas apparently I would rather be unsafe and sorry. So what is the rock in there? And, Rachel says that she also has it in her tanks at home.
Oh, I got the rock from Rachel.
Well, no, she has the boost at home.
Oh, she does? Oh, good.
Yeah, so what is the rock?
The rock is Black Hillstone. I bought it from Rachel Leary, I guess, a year and a half ago. It's been a couple of my scapes. I really like this combination. If you look at like some of my older scapes, IEPLC, and also one of the show tanks I did at Aquatic Experience, almost the same configuration.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like that layout. I played around with it a bunch. I'm still not there, but I glued the two big pieces to other big pieces, and I can't get them undone.
Yeah, I mean, so I really enjoy snorkeling in my local streams. That's one of my favorite ways to spend an afternoon, which is super weird.
It's fine. I go out wading in the East River.
True. It is weird from the perspective of other people wandering by and seeing just a body floating face down in a stream. But what I really like about the stone is that it really is reminiscent of what stream beds, at least on the east coast of the United States, actually look like.
Absolutely.
Which is near and dear to my heart. This is not the type of hardscape that I used to be into until I started snorkeling in my local streams and realized, like, oh, that's what nature looks like. Granted, this is a fancier version of nature that has plants that would never exist in the same location, but it still more closely represents nature than a lot of the stuff that we see, and I really like that. So other questions. I'm going to ask one, even though it's not in the comments. There are a few little snail creatures on the glass there, but they are not snails.
They're limpets.
Yeah.
They have freshwater limpets.
And what limpets are?
I mean, limpets they're in the snail family, right?
I think they might be we should have done our research before we started talking. I believe they're a single shell.
Yeah, single shell. They're not a bivalve. A mollusk.
Yeah, mollusk. Yes. And they are fairly common in saltwater, but less common in freshwater.
I mean, these things the size, I've never seen limpets bigger than like a pencil eraser. but these guys are about the size of quarters.
Yeah.
And they're pretty cool. Although once you get them in a tank, you're not getting them out. I have one stuck in a tank that's empty right now. I don't know how to get him out. Every time I touch him, he like suction cups himself to the glass, and it's like not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Kind of freaking out.
Well, I mean, limpets are famous for growing in intertidal zones,
right.
Where they have to survive the crashing waves of the ocean. So one person pulling out them is probably not going to do it. Michael asked, has anyone put together a no substrate scape before? Have you ever heard of a no substrate scape?
Yeah, I mean, I've done one. I did a big ball of Anubias, and then I secured it with a fishing line. That was like a fun scape that I did, but there was like nothing in the tank.
Yeah.
Like this ball of Anubias and then like a little carpet of floating moss around it. Yeah, you can do no, but I mean substrate, if you're growing plants, you need substrate.
I mean, conceivably you could do a not a no substrate, but basically just rock rubble and rhizome plants. And if you dose the water column properly, you can make that work. Kevin is helpfully pointing. Not only is he pointing off screen, but his finger is not in the screen.
Well, I was just should we bring this up? Was more like I guess it has sand, so it is a substrate.
Making us full screen again. Yeah, so I think it is possible to do a no substrate tank.
Just rocks, yeah.
Just rocks and rhizome plants. I think you could make work.
I mean, I do it all the time.
Boos, Anubias, and Java fern. You could do that pretty effectively. In fact, Kevin's aquatic experience tank in 2017 did have substrate in it, but you didn't use the substrate. I guess you did a little bit, but it was largely you were using rhizome plants on your hardscape.
Yeah, there was nothing on the ground.
Yeah.
Nothing on the deck. It was all like up in this like cliff face that I built.
Yeah.
It's a terrible tank. It's terrible.
I think it would have been a really strong tank had there been no plants and it just been an African cichlid tank.
I agree 100%.
I think the addition of plants was
a mistake.
Yes. But it was an aquascaping contest, and it's hard to resist the urge to put plants in an aquascape.
Maybe I'll do that next year. No plants.
Yeah, just go for it. So now I think it's time to move on to our second tank. I might go back to this tank if people have any questions. So if you guys have any questions, what was the name of that tank that we just looked at?
Estris.
How do you spell that?
Oestrus.
So try to spell something close to that and say, I have a question about this tank, and then we'll throw back to that video and we can answer your questions if you have them later in the live feed. So we're going to now go to a really cool tank.
There's some questions. Should we ask some questions real quick? Or?
Yeah. Actually, no. I'm going to throw to the video, and we'll answer questions on the video, and then we'll just watch the video a second time and answer questions about that tank. Because looking at the two of us is not that exciting. Let's be honest with ourselves.
Oh, it's one of the guys at my last open house.
Okay.
How you doing, Rob? Yeah, man, I'll do a demo on the 18th. I also do one monthly. My shop's open to the public once a month, and I'll do like workshops and lessons and stuff.
Yeah.
Wow,
all right.
It's so much better there than it does in real life.
I am just a quality filmmaker. It's a little underexposed, but that's okay. So this tank is called River Bonsai,
but I'm looking for a better name.
We're looking for a better name, so if you've got a better name for this tank, leave it in the comments, and we'll try to figure out. There's Kevin, both in picture. See if you can come up with a better name for this tank. What's cool about this tank, as you just saw Kevin walk behind it, it's in the center of his room. So it's visible from both sides. So a little bit later in this video, we're going to see the other side of this tank, and you'll see how it plays well on both sides. So try to come up with a name for that tank, and I'm going to bring us off screen and then read the question or read the comments and see whether or not we have any questions, and then we'll talk about this tank a little bit more. So, what soil do you recommend using for tanks?
Tropica aqua soil.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's my favorite soil right now. And I've had a chance to get spoiled. I've had a chance to use a lot of stuff that's not available in the States. And it almost makes me sound like a smuggler. Tropica, for as far as availability, Tropica is still my favorite to use. It's about half the ammonia spike of ADA.
Have you tried using cap soil?
Yeah, I've done cap soil.
What do you think about cap soil?
I would never go back and do that again.
So there you go. Harsh review on cap soil.
I mean, I feel like I've had some bad experiences. I had a Wallstead tank for quite a few years. It was probably the most lush tank, the most boring plant-wise. But I had a methane buildup that I didn't know about, and it popped. And I came home to a house smelling like sulfur and fish all over my floor.
That's pretty rough. So Rob asked, can you go over your technique with metal chicken wire, loofah, and moss to help carpet? I don't know what that question is about. Can you?
I'll do a quick little demo at the end of the video. Do you want to? We can do that, or I mean, I use steel mesh.
Yeah. So we'll go back to that once we go full screen again. But noted that that's in there. So any other questions? What is that type of wood that's in this tank right here?
This is what's gonna make everybody mad. I'd say there's like. Well, now, because I added a piece, there's 5 different types of wood.
5 different species of wood?
Yeah. It's basically just scrap wood that I cut up and then put back together using thermoplastics.
What do you mean by thermoplastics? What are you
It's just this really soft plastic that's completely inert, and you boil it at about 100 degrees, and then you can put it, glue it. Basically, it's like a glue. Like, if you have like a stick. You want to put it to another stick, then you put a little super glue here, a little super glue there, then put the thermoplastics in between, and it like molds it, and the super glue holds it in place. And it's an airtight seal.
Where would you go about getting that stuff?
I get it on Amazon.
Okay.
You just type in thermoplastics.
All right. At the end of this live stream, I'll add a link to that. I've never heard of it.
Oh, it's the best way to put together hardscape.
I'll be adding a link to it mainly for I'll just log it as that's something that I need to check out at some point.
I've never used it. The future. I don't really use glues and epoxies unless it's like a heavier stone like Ceru or Dragonstone, which is very brittle. I'll use like Gorilla Glue.
Yeah.
But in general, it's a really easy way to put together wood and like the lighter, like especially like lava stone. You'll never take that apart. I'm actually having a problem trying to break down a tank with lava stone. I use the thermoplastics, and I can't get it out of the tank.
Okay.
So I have to get a heat gun.
So we're now on the other side of the tank. It's got a little bit different look, but I think it's still a totally cool look. And we've got some fish swimming in front. What are those fish?
That is the explanation point rasboras are my favorite fish, period. I love them. They're very active. They're not afraid of people. The only thing I've ever noticed about them is they're very noise sensitive, which you would say, of course they are, but I mean like splashing. Like when the water level drops real low on that tank and I have a spray bar on it, that noise is very intense and they'll like run away.
Interesting.
But other than that, they're friendly. They let me know when they want to be fed. If I don't feed them at the same time, they'll like start swimming around real fast. And yeah, I love them. They're great.
So what is that that little device on the right-hand side of the screen?
Oh, the Twin Star.
This right there?
Yeah.
What is it?
In the simplest terms possible, it pulls oxygen out of the water, H2O. So the hydrogen gets released, the oxygen turns into microbubbles and oxygenates your tank. It's a good way to fight off soft algae, and a lot of the bad bacteria don't like the microbubbles, and it kills it.
Does it work?
It works. It's old technology. The Navy's been using it for 50 years, and the saltwater community embraced it about 25 years ago. It became very, very popular about 10 years ago in the saltwater community.
Because the most that I've ever seen it is people using it and people not being sure whether or not it's black magic that's not
I think
real.
the biggest problem, and a lot of influencers have also gone down this route, is that there's 2 things you got to remember about stuff like equipment. You got to read the instructions, and you have to read what they guarantee to do and what they don't do. The Twin Star is not a magic button you can just stick in your tank. It only works, in my opinion, when you first initially set up the tank. It only goes for soft algae. Uh-oh.
I'm going to make us full screen so that we're not tiny. There we go.
So yeah, you got to read the instructions, understand what it guarantees to do, and clean it regularly. Like I have a guy who got mad it didn't work, and then I asked him when was the last time he cleaned it, and he said he never had, and he had it in his tank for 6 months. I clean mine every 3 to 4 weeks.
Okay. So Rachel asked a question about the substrate of this tank. It's lots of little rounded stones. Can you talk about what that substrate is?
Sure. It's little pebbles from my local fish store.
Do you know what brand or what it is?
It's in a bucket. I'm assuming it's probably from like a landscaping spot, and I'm just too lazy to go find it.
Because it's a very pretty look.
I love it. I use it in a lot of my aquascapes. Does not photograph well. A lot of people think that it's aquasoil just left exposed, unfortunately. Yeah. But in person, it looks beautiful.
It's lots of little teeny, what look like tiny versions of river rocks.
Yes.
So it's not aquaflora, I believe is what Rachel asked. I don't believe it is. But it is a really, really cool rock. So that's a great introduction of it not photographing well. I am going to be making a full-length video about at least 3 of these tanks, maybe more, plus the shop in general. This will be one of the tanks that I show off in a full-length video. So you'll actually get an up-close look of what we're actually looking at. And by that time, hopefully we'll have some names picked out of what this tank is actually called. I'm going to disappear us for a second. So some of the names that people have suggested so far.
Thanks, Rachel. I'll check it out at Sarah. I got to make an order from Sarah soon anyway.
So we've got Mad Madam River, like The Wind Beneath My Fins, an aggressive pun. Windy Oak, kind of like that. Medusa's Good Side. Underwater Flame. I think that's all the ones that I spotted on a quick scroll through. So how often do you do water changes on these tanks?
I do an 80% water change once a week.
An 80% water change? Just one? Just one giant water change?
Yes.
Okay. So
I just don't have time. I got so many tanks and trimming and emails. Like maybe if people just stopped emailing me, I would have more time.
Yeah, what you need is less human contact. Question for you, Kevin. This is a tank in the center of your shop. Mm-hmm. It's visible from all 4 sides. What is the challenge of aquascaping a tank that is supposed to be visible from all 4 sides?
You can't have a bad side. Like you can't. It's definitely the hardest thing. Like you a lot of times, like if you have some stray glue or there's roots exposed or something, like you have a little give because you can hide it because that's the wall side, but not. Yeah. This has got to be 360. You got to make sure every angle is interesting.
So does that mean you pretty much have to do an island scape?
Yes. I mean, yeah. And there's not really a way to get around that. I mean, I don't consider this an islandscape, but I guess it is.
It's a take on an islandscape.
I mean, it has a beginning and an end, an islandscape. Yeah. There's the Crypt Panther is right up against the glass. When that finish grows in, it's going to cover it, and it's got a little lane of aquasoil in the middle. So, not completely an island, but yeah, you got to make sure. The hardest for me is, it's one of the reasons why I had to rework this tank a lot. Is when you look at it at the corners. You had to make sure that things still lined up and it still looks good, because you have that bent glass refraction.
Right.
Also, playing with reflections was really, really hard. So I decided I didn't want any reflections at all. I felt like as you moved around, the reflections were too distracting. Mm-hmm. So that's why I used a spray bar.
Interesting. Question in here is, what kind of filter are you using on a tank this size? Oh yeah, let's talk about how big this tank is. What are we actually looking at?
This is a UNS 60U.
Okay.
I believe it's 24 gallons.
Sure. I don't know.
I think so.
All right, so it's around a 20-gallon tank. Yeah, it's a decent sized tank, but it's not a huge tank.
It's small. It's 2 feet by 14 inches by 14 inches. 14 and a half inches?
I mean, it's a big tank for my apartment. I do all nanos. I have a 20 and a 60, and the 60 is gargantuan in my mind.
I mean, in my line of work, I consider this a nano.
Yeah.
And I did an 800-gallon tank in Atlanta a couple months ago.
Yeah. So what kind of filter is running on this?
Neheim 2215.
Yeah. Is that enough filtration for a tank that size? Or are you under filtering a little bit?
Oh, I think I'm fine.
Okay.
I mean, I'm using, it's probably, some would consider it 4 times more filtration than it needs.
Yeah.
But I believe in a turnover at the minimum 10 times.
Right. Well, that's why I asked, is that I also try to overfilter by 10 times or have 10 times the filtration.
I've got a 3-gallon hooked up to a Neheim 2213.
Which is I think a general like decent rule of thumb is take the size. Yeah, take the size of your tank, multiply it by 10, and that's how many gallons per hour your filter should be pumping.
I agree with you.
Because otherwise you're...
Unless it's a sump. Sumps you can get away with a little more leeway.
For the most part, it's better to overfilter than underfilter.
Yes, always.
Unless you've got fish that really can't handle current, but
there's
ways to deal with that.
Like glassware.
Yeah, which we will hopefully have time to talk about a little bit later. What kind of lights do you use? Because I think, almost every tank has a different light on it right now?
It's either lights that I can special order or I carry, or lights that I'm testing out. Like there's a tank over here that I'm trying out the Atletis light. Behind me is the UNS Titan, which I'm testing out. I'm not going to offer it for sale yet. So yeah.
Yeah, so as we make it full screen again, this tank is the tank that we were just looking at. We're looking at the short end of this tank. What are you doing? Oh gosh. And the light that's just out of frame that's making Kevin nice and silhouetted is the light on that tank. Okay, I'm going to stop you from touching anything.
I'm getting distracted.
Yeah, he's spiraling.
I've been sitting still for a while.
So now that we're full screen again, you talked about ways to distribute water flow. You want to get a couple of your little lily pipes and show them
to
the camera? So I don't own any lily pipes. They're a little bit they're not crazy pricey, but they are more expensive than just the outflow of a normal filter. But they look really, really great. And
I think I have them in my clean pile.
Mainly I want Kevin to talk about this because it's interesting how they impact the flow of water in the tank. While they are really pretty, I'll show you what one looks like. They're a nice little glassware. They are very pretty, but what's interesting is the fluid dynamics in the tank. Kevin has just walked away and left me high and dry to patter.
I got a dirty pipe.
Cool, that's fine. So let's talk about lily pipes. What do we got? What do you got in your hand?
This is a spin pipe.
Okay.
It needs to be clean. I'm sorry.
No, now we can see everything. It's glass, otherwise we wouldn't be able to see anything. So it needs to be cleaned. But what is it? So basically, we're looking at it. Water flows up the tube and out through this little loop-de-loop. And that blocks a lot of the water outflow.
Right. Basically, you have a vortex that's created in here, and the water comes out on both sides. Great for betas. Really great for betas.
Because betas, they need low flow, or they're just going to get blown away and they're going to be stressed out. So this allows you to pump water into the tank without blasting them.
Yes.
How does it handle things like when you have slow-growing plants like Boos and Anubias, you get a lot of algae growth on the leaves of those plants. And one way to help out with that is higher flow in your tank.
Oh,
so
right.
That's undermining that a little bit. So,
yeah, so you don't want to use that. I believe there's a filter pipe for every situation.
Sure.
For a beta tank, especially like if I do betas, I believe they need big soft leaves, and like something pretty where they can come in and out. They like coming in and out of the shadow, something shallow.
Big leaves to lay on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And betas are lazy.
Yeah.
And they're mean.
So the big question in terms of this that someone asked, and it's already pushed past where I can see it, is how much do these things actually run generally?
I got mid-grade. What I sell is mid-grade stuff. I mean, I have high-end stuff. I'm trying to get some lower-end stuff that's still high quality. Like this lily pipe, $55.
Yeah.
I believe this is like, this is $59.
Yeah.
So they're a little pricey. And I notice a lot of people like post, they break easy, and here's the thing. Talk to people, find out what works best with them. Especially when you're buying glassware, that's the most important part. Buy borosilicate glass. Don't buy cheap glass.
What is borosilicate glass?
Borosilicate glass is the easiest way to say it is it's scientific grade.
Okay.
So it's a little tougher, a little thicker. The thicker the glass, the better. It might restrict your flow a little bit, but I'd rather a little flow restriction than having a piece of glass go through my hand. If you treat them with respect, I've broken 3 pieces of glassware in 3 years.
Okay. And how many tanks have you done? Because you tinker with a lot more tanks than most people do.
Well, I think I guess I'm well into the mid to upper 300, 250, maybe 260.
Yeah. So a lot of tanks.
Professional tanks.
In a few years. So we talked about one of the pipes. We talked about the what is this pipe again?
Spin pipe.
The spin pipe. The more traditional
lily pipe.
The lily pipe. You want to hand me that very dirty one? All right, this is really, really dirty, but this is what this looks like. And Kevin actually has a video on his YouTube channel that shows how water flows out of these pipes, which I found really beautiful. And I'm hoping that we can recreate that video on my channel in super slow motion and in 4K, because I just thought it was so pretty.
I mean, I shot it with an iPhone 6.
Right. So my goal is to up that production value. So what is the advantage of this filter output?
Okay. Well, it's all about vortex. So as the water comes down in the angle, a vortex is created, and it creates a vortex at the top, creating suction and pulling down. This is a good way to, as long as your surface scum isn't too bad, it's a good way to keep surface scum down. It doesn't blast water out. It keeps you a good solid flow. And what I like best about it is I call it the early warning. When your water level is too low, it'll make a little bit of a splashing noise. Mm-hmm. And as you know, most of the heavy-duty algae are, the easiest way to get them is to have inconsistent CO2. Inconsistent CO2, the easiest way to battle that is to control your water level. So all around, I mean, this is like one of the most valuable tools. It's glass, it looks pretty, and it has like 5 different purposes.
It does look really, really pretty. I mean, it is not, it's not like the first thing that you're going to buy for your tank, but it's a nice thing to spruce up a setup that you already have.
I mean, there's the lily pipe in the tank we just reviewed.
Yeah.
Estris.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lily pipe on every tank in here. Yeah. They're very, very pretty. They don't distract. What do you think of the metal ones?
I mean, the metal ones they're jet pipes,
so
it's super speed. The problem is for me, sometimes you can have too much flow. I think like blackbeard algae is a good example. Blackbeard algae likes flow. It likes a lot of flow. And for me, I find that the easiest way to battle algae isn't to push out, it's the in. So you have a nice gentle flow out, and then bring it in. That's the best way to keep your tank clean.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you're just blasting, the problem is that if you just blast all the time like that, all the detritus, all those organics, whatever is going on, it'll find a place to sit and it'll just build.
Right.
Instead of hitting a wall and slowly coming down, and then you can stir it up a little bit, you're just packing it into whatever corner it finds.
Yeah. All right. So that's a little look into lily pipes. We'll get back to some more random tools in a second. But one of the things that one of the next tanks that I want to share with you guys is a tank called Littlefoot, which I'm going to upload now as I talk. So bear with me. I haven't reviewed this footage at all, so it could be terrible. It could not have exported properly. It could have just a slew of curse words underneath it. I hope not. I don't think it does, but
it's my fault.
That'd be his doing if it happened. There we go. So this is Littlefoot. I also want to thank Michael for the super chat. That's very much appreciated. Unnecessary, but very, very thankful for your support of this. It's fun to hang out with Kevin, even if it was a long drive from DC to New York City.
I'm sorry, Alex.
So this is Littlefoot. I really, really love this tank, and the only sign of how truly tiny this tank is are the books next to it.
Yeah.
So how big is this tank?
Oh, I think it's, 12 inches by 8 inches by 8 inches or something like that? It's 3 gallons?
It's a 3-gallon tank.
Yes.
So it's real tiny. Could you have anything in there? Could it support anything but maybe shrimp?
I have some mallow shrimp in there just because they're like truly like cockroaches. Nothing kills them.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't really have the water volume to even hold a bed of that well. I mean, you could maybe.
I mean, you could put a bait in there,
but it's you're pushing it.
Yeah.
The bed is not going to be super happy.
No. It's nice little video of me doing maintenance.
Look, I mean, so I showed up here around 4 o'clock, and we started this stream at 7. So I just very quickly shot some footage, and that's some of the footage that we got. Yeah. So, let's push through.
And I'm in the middle of a big job, so the shop wasn't 5x5. So
I don't know what that means, but I'm sure it means something.
Not in show condition.
Gotcha.
It's a little messy.
So you could see Kevin adjusting the lily pipe in this tank as well, which I think, again, I don't own any lily pipes, but one of the things that I really enjoy about them is the fact that there's a pipe right there in the foreground of the tank, and you can barely see it.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
I mean, you got to keep them clean. I clean mine every week. Maybe that's a little too much.
Yeah. So this tank looks way bigger than it actually is. Why? How did you pull that off? How did you make it look as big as it is? Because when I first saw it on Instagram, I did not realize how tiny that tank was.
I could talk all day about art theory and optical illusions and light refraction, but for this particular tank, it was in a cloche, and I was tossing a bunch of like moss trimmings in there, and I kind of forgot about it.
Wait, sorry, a cloche?
A cloche,
like
a bell jar.
Okay, so basically,
like a mini terrarium.
This was not underwater.
No, it's not underwater. I just threw up. There's wave moss in there, like at least 5 different physidins, Cameroon moss, Sumatra physidins, and I don't even know, like Christmas moss, mini Christmas moss, who knows? A lot of Ricardia. And I just tossed it in there and I forgot about it. Just put it under a light. And then I had this 3-gallon and I was looking at the log and I just put it in. I literally just put it in. There was no forethought. There was nothing. I was like, oh, this is an easy little quick scape, and everybody loves it.
It's a really cool scape. So what's going on here? What is the wood? Oh, look, I'm adjusting my camera. That's the kind of professionalism I bring to this live stream.
I don't even know what kind of wood it is.
Really?
Really.
Okay. Do you know what's growing on the wood?
Literally like 12 different mosses and warts or more, maybe 20.
And
the only thing I know for sure is the physidins in the front is Jeppy.
Okay.
I have no idea what anything else is.
So apparently you don't believe in separating your mosses and escape. You're willing to mix moss species and mix physidin species. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
But I mean, it was literally
some people don't like to do that because then you can't successfully relocate that moss.
Well, the thing is that when you're like trying to grow something terrestrial, a lot of these mosses look exactly the same.
Right.
They're all the same species, just slight variations, but growing them immersed, they all look the same. I just stopped caring when I was breaking down tanks or trimming. I would just throw them into this bell jar and they just attached.
That's awesome.
And it's growing so fast.
Yeah, so how long has this tank been set up?
What, 3 weeks?
I don't know. You're the one that owns the tank.
Let me check that. I can tell you in a second. You keep talking.
Okay. I will provide a pattern. Let's see. So Michael asked RO water, question mark. Now,
December 6th, I said that.
December 6th. So about a month. Now, they could have been asking what we think about RO water in general, or if you use RO water. So let's start with, do you use RO water?
No.
And RO water is reverse osmosis water. Why don't you use RO water?
I live in Brooklyn. Once the all the chlorine leaves the water, it's almost RO water. It's pretty clean as long as you stay up. Like the city announces when they do like water tests and stuff. As long as you stay on top of that. When they're flushing the system, it's no good to use the water, but in general, it's pretty easy going. Also, I'm not very picky about water. I've gotten a lot of arguments, but I've grown Pago salmon hellrefi in hard water with no problem.
Yeah, I don't really see the point in RO water in most instances.
I think it's a waste of resources.
I think it is. There are instances where it is helpful if you have particularly rough water, but most things that you keep will eventually adapt to the system that you have.
Mm-hmm.
And if the plant can't adapt to the system that you have, there are lots of other plants. Don't keep that plant. Don't make your life harder unless there's literally no way around it.
Or take the advice you gave me once and just run a slow trickle of CO2 24/7.
Yeah.
And that worked out really well for me.
Yeah. I mentioned this in a live stream previously, but I can't tell if you're making fun of me, but I'm...
No.
Okay.
One of my paludariums, because I use cement, the pH is 8.7.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
so that lowered the pH a little
Yeah,
bit.
it took it all the way down to
Yeah.
like 6.5. And I do have a slow trickle, and I wasn't joshing.
I mean, my case for running very, very little CO2 all the time is that animals produce CO2. So at night, the CO2 levels in any body of water are going to go up because the plants are not photosynthesizing. So if you slowly build up CO2 levels at night, the plants will then use that CO2 in the morning to some degree. Like fluctuations in CO2 are natural in our marine or our plant or our aquatic environments.
Massive.
So unless you are gassing your fish to the point where they are gasping for air, a slow little trickle is not going to harm the fish. And that allows you to use a cheap RO or CO2 system if you don't want to splurge on a regulator and a timer.
Littlefoot actually has a CO2 bell in there.
Sorry,
and-
how long were we tiny? A while.
Wow.
Sorry, guys. Anyway. continue.
The little 3-gallon, it has a CO2, the Tropica 60 system. Which is a CO2 bell. It's actually hidden in the back, and so there is a consistent CO2 in there. And I'm actually really happy with that system. Things are growing. The moss is going way faster than I expected. I mean, it's quadrupled in mass over the course of the past 4 weeks.
Really? Wow. Let's see if I can go full screen again with this. Let's see. No. All right, I'm going to go big again. While I work on getting that video back up, why don't we go through another tool or two in our little collection. Earlier in the stream, if you're just joining us, we started looking at some tools. Before we go to that, I know that I just told you to show us something. Hinshaw just asked, how long do you keep the aquascapes? How long do you keep your aquascapes?
I get bored really fast.
Yeah, that's why I asked the question, because you cycle through aquascapes faster than I do.
Well, I like to learn. If I see something new, a new technique or a new style or anything, I finite amount of tanks, so I break them down and try something new. But I have a shop now, and people want to see growth, so we'll see. I have to keep them all for at least 6 months. That's the deal I have with myself.
I agree with that. Kevin knew that I was visiting, and last night I got a photo of a tank that previously was set up and ceased to be set up. It's the tank right over my shoulder that Kevin reset up last night on a whim. So apparently getting a tank and keeping it is hard for Kevin.
I'm a very hyperactive man. It's hard. Like, the fact that I'm sitting still this long is amazing. So, my aquascape's the same way. I like to change things around. Again, it's also about trying new techniques and stuff. But this little guy, he'll probably be around for a while, just because I'm getting another one that size soon.
Yeah,
play with.
I really, really love the little teeny aquascapes for a couple reasons. One, the hardscape and the plant materials are way cheaper. Plus the tank is way cheaper. I mean, a little tank like that is
$75, $80.
yeah. I mean, you can get a really beautiful looking tank for less than $100, which is not nothing. That's still significant money, but it's way less significant than a giant tank. Yeah, Kevin cleaning. And the hardscape and the plants are also relatively inexpensive, which means that you can tinker without spending a couple $100 to rescape the tank. You can
break crap without crying about it.
Exactly. You can gather stuff from a bucket that you've been saving plants from, and you
smash
can
that sear.
Rescape something from scratch. The other nice thing about them is that if you want to get a second tank or a 12th tank or whatever, finding the footprint for a little tank that has a footprint of less than 1 square foot is pretty easy, whereas finding the footprint for a large tank is tough.
Yes.
So these little tanks are a great way for me. That's why I really like nano tanks, is that I can tinker and come up with a new look and try something new, and it doesn't break the bank as much as a big tank, and it doesn't make my tank or my apartment look like I'm a lunatic, which is nice.
Oh my God, my apartment. It did look like a lunatic.
Yeah.
I have no aquariums in my apartment anymore. I have one palletarium left that I'm going to break down next week. Nothing. It's all gone.
Yeah, so let's talk about tools while or actually, does anyone have any questions about this tank? If you do, we've got about 5 minutes before this tank goes off screen again, so feel free to ask any questions that you've got about this tank or any nano tanks like that, and we will go from there. Yeah, so where do you get your inspiration for aquascaping? Like, what are you looking at to inspire you?
A lot of artwork. I mean, I look at artwork and then I see how I look at nature and apply it. To try to find a medium ground. Some stuff I haven't been scaping to the way that I like to, because the stuff that I've been doing lately, I'm trying to make it more mentally acceptable or accessible. Excuse me. It's like trying to do scapes like anybody can do.
Right.
Like this is a good example. Like literally throw a bunch of moss in there, put it in a moist environment for 3 to 4 weeks, and then come back. The moss will have attached, and dunk it in water, and boom, instascape.
Right. I think a scape like this is doable for most people if they do a little bit of research and set themselves up to succeed. And this tank, you could easily, I think I'm leaning in to look at the video. Everything in there you could grow in low light, I think, right? I don't see anything
it's under low light right now. I mean, that's not
right.
very powerful.
But I mean, you could grow everything in there under a shop light, essentially.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
or a desk light.
And I can't believe the wave moss is doing really well.
So Ginger asked, they have arthritis in their hands, and their grip and dexterity isn't the best. Are there any aquascaping tools that are designed with that in mind?
I wish. I used to be left-handed, and now I'm right-handed.
Why?
I chopped off my thumb.
Okay.
But I don't. But I can tell you sometimes when I'm really tired or my hands really hurt, because I actually spent a summer with casts on both hands. I reattached my thumb and broke my hand. But I like super glue my fingers to like tweezers.
That's a technique. That's a rough technique.
But it doesn't go anywhere. Then I can like keep working.
Yeah.
Because my hands like swell up and get stiff.
So they have trouble keeping the plants pinched in the tweezers when they're planting. Any tips on keeping that? Are there any reverse spring tweezers or anything like that? I think
I've seen some stuff, but nothing commercially.
Yeah. I mean, at one point I had a set, and I don't know if this will work for you. I got a set of tweezers that were designed for model railroads. And the model railroad tweezers, they have a reverse spring mechanism on them. So their default is to stay closed rather than to stay open.
Ooh, I really like that.
Right, it is cool. Now the problem is if you're planting a delicate stem, that pressure could crush the plant, but I don't think it would be a devastating thing. If your dexterity is such that you could squeeze down on the tweezers to hold them open to grab something, that might be a helpful tip. I'll see if I can find a link to that and put that in the description.
Also, contacting a machine shop. If you can find like a mom and pop machine shop. I do it all the time for like special equipment that I need made. A lot of these places love problem solving. It's better than like making the cogs that they normally have to make or like a specific spring. So definitely reaching out to like a local store. Don't limit your search like model railroads. Don't limit your search to aquarium stuff. That's like one of the big mistakes in this business. Like if you're looking for tweezers, people will type in aquarium tweezers. No, don't do that. Like go out and like just type in like 14-inch tweezers. See what you get.
Yeah. The other thing that I would say, hold on, I'm sorry, I'm trying to make this full screen.
I'm a terrible salesman for my own products.
The other thing I would say is if you don't already, try building your scapes with the dry start method of building everything with everything completely dry. There's a lot more room for error in that system, and you can use your hands rather than using tweezers a lot more effectively. Now that doesn't help if you need to trim, but that is a helpful way of avoiding that strain. Engineering tweezers.
That's a good one too.
Engineering tweezers is a great suggestion. Yeah, because there are lots of tweezers that are designed to hold things by default. Because I imagine surgical tweezers are the same. As you don't want to accidentally drop the needle that you're trying.
Yeah, they have a lot of resistance.
Right, but I'm sure that there are. This is a thing that people have needed to solve before.
Yeah.
On the subject of tools, we've got this lovely pair of scissors here. Don't threaten my audience. What do we got there?
Spring scissors.
Okay.
My best friend.
Why?
Because I do have like big clumsy hands. And
yeah, my hands are nice and delicate compared to his.
Yeah, I gotta.
Yeah. I mean, my hands are closer to the screen than his. I've got little dainty hands.
I got giant hands. They're big, meaty hands. That's why I was a good boxer and hockey player. But anyway, these are like great for everything from trimming carpets to getting in and getting the stems. And I use these probably 100 times a day.
That's a lot of time.
So that's 100 clicks minimum a day.
So why spring versus not spring?
If you're doing that much, it's less resistance. They're sharp.
And it's pain on your fingers as well.
Carpal tunnel is a real thing.
Yeah.
Affects millions of Americans every year.
Yeah. And these have got a curve to them. What is the advantage of a
really
curve?
sharp? Really sharp. I've taken off my fingertip.
Just losing a lot of parts of your body. What is the advantage of a curved scissor versus a straight scissor?
So it's like
what are their uses?
So it's like aiming. So if you want to get down in, you can see it better. You know, like you're looking down, you like get the target.
Right.
I find it's just easier to use than straight.
Yeah, I mean, my answer to that. Sorry, I'm gonna drop this footage in so that it's ready. My answer to that is if you're leaning into a tank, going straight down. If you have straight scissors, you're gonna have to completely level your hand in order to cut. Whereas with the curved, you've got a little bit more
better aim.
Wiggle, which is specifically valuable if you're trimming carpet, or I mean stems as well. But I don't really like stems. So,
what?
Yeah, I like carpets.
I like you can have both.
I'm just telling you my view. I'm not a big fan of stems.
Plenty of dogs and cats live together in happiness.
Yeah. So Slim Zap Light. Something tells me that's not your real name. But maybe it is. What is your favorite plant?
Oh God, that's like asking a 5-year-old what's his favorite candy. I like Rotella Hura a lot.
What is that?
It's a bright red Rotella, medium-sized leaves with a spread of like 3 centimeters.
Okay. Is it a low light, mid light?
It's a high tech one. Medium skill level, but it likes high tech. Bright light, lots of CO2, lots of fertilizers.
Right. What's your favorite, more beginner level plant?
Fissidens.
Really? I like Fissidens a lot. Why?
It's very versatile. Unlike other mosses, you can use it as a carpet. You can use it to hide mistakes. It comes in a couple of different variances, different sizes, different shapes. It's great. It's like a giant multi-purpose friend of mine.
Yeah, and so is Fissidens an individual species or is it a genus of mosses?
It's a genus of mosses.
Yeah. Like how I always am the one that has to play dumb. I promise I do kind of know what I'm talking about. I'm just trying to prompt Kevin into giving answers.
I'm not very good at this.
I mean, you're fine. I just want I'm very self-conscious that everyone's going to think that I'm a real dum-dum. Okay, I'm going to push past that because you talked about Fissidens. So I am going to force you to look at this tank again. Down in the bottom right-hand corner is a little carpet of Fissidens.
Well, it's going to be a carpet eventually.
Yeah. So what are the uses of Fissidens?
In this tank, I have Fissidens in multiple different places. Some places I use it almost like cement. Fissidens is very strong. And once it gets attached to like in the crevices of rocks, it helps keep the rocks in place. In this particular setup, because it's such high flow and it's held together by pebbles with like larger rocks, like in nature, the rocks are shifting. It's very annoying. Every now and then I have to go in, I have to move a rock back into place. People don't think about this, but this is how... This tank is a testament to when somebody says something looks more natural, this is more natural. You know, like when I was first setting this tank, I got a critique from some of the people who are better known than me. And they're like, oh, you need to spread them out, you need to do this. And I'm looking at them, and I was like, no, that's not how nature is. Nature bunches big rocks with bigger rocks. You know, so you have the little rocks bunching with the bigger rocks, which is bigger rocks. So, and like true to nature, these larger rocks will shift over time, especially as like the little pebbles get out of the way, they sink a little bit, pushing one other way. I find that the Fissidens is really, really good at keeping these rocks in place. Yeah. It's like a natural cement.
And how is Fissidens spelled? Someone asked.
Fissidens.
That could be right.
That might be right. I might be wrong.
Yeah, it's F-I-S. Yeah, I can't help you. I tried. I can't help you. So we talked about uses of Fissidens. We're now back at this tank, and we said that we talked about using steel mesh and Fissidens and mosses and that kind of thing. So, you know what? Before I go down on that tangent, I'm going to clumsily refresh everyone's memory that if you're just joining, this is Kevin Kelly of Brooklyn Hardscape. He runs Brooklyn Hardscape, which is a shop in Brooklyn, New York. And online, there's a link to the shop in the description of this video. Kevin is not sponsoring me, even though that sounded like an aggressive plug. I am, in fact, just visiting Kevin and filming his aquariums because he's a talented aquascaper.
And this shop's only been open for a couple of months. Alex is a good friend. He's helping us out.
Yeah. So, but also I want to film Kevin's lovely tanks like the one that we're looking at right
There aren't
now.
any good ones yet.
I disagree. But so the Fissidens down in the bottom right-hand corner, they're, because it's a moss, is it actually technically a moss?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a moss. I believe so. Somebody can correct me.
It doesn't have a rhoot structure.
Right. Rhizome.
Does it have?
Yeah. Mosses have rhizomes.
Okay. I'm willing to be wrong on that one.
The book.
Anyway, remind me about the books in a second because people asked about the books. The carpet right there that you see is actually embedded in surgical grade.
Yeah, surgical grade stainless steel mesh.
So let's talk about that. What is surgical steel stainless steel, and why would you use that over a steel mesh that you might find somewhere else?
Well, I don't have anybody to print, do 3D printing stuff for me, and it's pretty cheap. You get a big roll of it for like $20.
Yeah, but the reason why you want to use surgical steel, stainless steel.
Oh, you don't want to
because
oxidation.
Stainless steel is not stainless when it's submerged underwater, and long term it does rust.
Eventually,
whereas surgical steel, I've never seen it rust. I'm sure it could.
Will they put a coating on it sometimes, but I don't know with the mesh. But I know like surgical steel stuff will have like a coating sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I've never seen it rust. So every now and then a little bit of oxidation happens, but nothing much.
Yeah.
But the surgical steel is the way to go, and then little shower loofah.
What do you mean, little shower loofah?
Well, you know, you get like the little like puff balls for showers,
Yeah.
and they're like 50 feet, like wrapped together in one little piece of
like
string.
a little mesh.
So you cut it out to fit the size of a little square of the stainless steel or the steel mesh, and you put the moss on it, stretch it over, it catches on the mesh, and boom, you have a little moss holding pad.
Wow.
And again, I'm like promoting people not to buy my products.
Yeah, if you want to support Kevin for giving us the opportunity to ask him these questions, go check out his website and see if there's anything that you fancy on there. Because apparently Kevin's just going to tell you how to get products from like the grocery store.
I don't mind. I'm just complaining.
Yeah, the fish are a exclamation point Raspora in this tank.
I don't want to say their scientific name. I massacre it every time. It's really long.
But they are a species of Raspora. They're pretty closely related to the Chile Raspora.
It's all the same. They're all microspores.
There's people outside, so apologize for the noises.
Well, up and to the right, it's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school in my building.
So they're just body slamming each other. It's great. What do you fertilize these tanks? People have been asking that question, and I've been ignoring it.
Tropica. I'm using right now.
I want to go get the two things off the shelf. I mainly just want him to hold up products because I so rarely get to just hold random products.
You can hold them.
Look at them. They're two different colors. I find this very fascinating. It's very satisfying packaging. So apparently one is for lower tech and higher tech plants. Is the broad breakdown. There's more technical to it, but that's the way to go about it.
We've gone dark.
Good call. So Kevin, can you talk about these? Not to like push them so hard as like a product, but this is the type of fertilizer that you use.
So I mean, I don't have a place to make. I have my own brand of fertilizer, but I don't have a place to make it right now. I will in the future. But as far as fertilizers, this is my favorite fertilizer. This is what I use in all my tanks. And I have a whole system. It's a little bit different than Tropica's published system, but I find that Tropica is a great company, and they make really good products. And the fertilizer is a great way if you don't want to mix your own to fertilize.
And the Tropica has suggested dosing on the back of their bottles, which is a good introductory suggestion.
Yeah.
And it's assuming a once weekly water change, I think, is how they built that system.
And I'll do a full fertilization after the water change.
Yeah.
For me right now, if you'll notice, like when you're filming the tanks, like the Macrandra isn't as red as it could be, or some of these plants. And I really believe in malnourishing the plants a little bit for the first month that they're in existence. Let them focus on building the roots, not the water column for nutrients. That way they get a good base, and then you can start really pounding them. But I mean, this is for stem plants mostly. You don't know what I'm talking about because you hate them.
What are stems? Yeah. How much are these fertilizers?
I'm selling them for $20 for the big bottle, and then
and this
12
lasts,
for the little bottle.
This lasts a while.
If you got nanos, oh my god, this will last like 6 months.
Yeah, I mean that's heavy dosing even.
This is the low tech.
I think
high tech.
Realistically, this could even last longer than 6 months dosing on a nano tank.
Oh yeah,
of the sizes that I use.
7 gallon, it'll be like 8-10 months.
Yeah. So, and that's if you dose regularly, which.
I mean, what is it? It's like
who doses their tanks regularly? Who doesn't forget a dose every once in a while? Apparently, Kevin doesn't forget.
I never miss a water change.
Yeah. Whatever. We can't all be perfect.
Sometimes I feel guilty and I'll do an extra water change.
So let's move on to another fun tool. Let's push past the fact that sometimes I forget to do water changes. What in the world is this? See, it's got a little plunger and then nothing at the end. What's going on here?
Oh, this is for putting root tabs.
So
not for
rather than water column fertilization. I gave Kevin 3 rules. One of them was no inappropriate jokes, and he's pivoted immediately into that.
I have not. That looks just exactly like the same tool they use at a proctologist to put the camera there.
Encouraged him. Yeah, so this is for dosing root tabs in your system.
It's a good way to get it all the way down, like to the base of the tank, and because you want to get those root tabs really down in there.
Yeah. What kind of water testing do you do? Do you test your water regularly, or have you gotten it down?
It's kind of a process. So the key to a successful plant and tank is observation, not water testing. Look at your plants, look at your fish, look for the signs. There's a lot of, plants will talk to you. They'll tell you exactly what's going on. The language isn't that hard to understand. You start testing your water, you will start freaking out, and you'll be pulling your hair out. This is not salt water, where you test your water and everything has to be consistent and precise. I think a lot more people would enjoy this hobby if they were not consistently testing their water.
Yeah.
You got holes in your leaves, you know what to do. Your plants are drooping and turning brown, you know what to do. You do. The answers are right there, and it's quick and easy.
Yeah. I think one of the things to remember with freshwater is that a lot of the fish that we deal with come out of waterways that have drastic shifts in how much water is running through them. So,
the Amazon.
Yeah, so you have situations where the water chemistry drastically changes quite quickly based on rainfall. You have huge nutrient buildup, and then you have huge nutrient spikes when there's when there's a rainstorm, and all that nutrients in the soil washes into that riverway.
Some of the life cycles of some of the cryptocorns.
So trying to keep everything super stable, while admirable, doesn't really recreate what these animals and plants are used to. So as long as you don't diverge too far, you're better off embracing the system rather than trying to chase some numbers.
If you're fighting to keep your tank at a certain pH, a certain level of this, certain level of that, you're gonna lose. The only thing I would suggest is if you start getting hardcore EI dosing, then you do water testing of your tap. That way you know what you need to add, what you need not. But even then, there's upswings and downswings. My water, for instance, my apartment, I had this unusually high iron content for 6 months. Ridiculous. You could taste it, I could feel it on my skin, and then it just stopped. Started mysteriously, stopped mysteriously. Yeah, no idea.
I mean, I had a situation not that long ago where we got a huge amount of rain, and normally our water is filtered or is treated with chlorine. But during really, really heavy water runoffs, they'll treat it with chlorine.
Okay.
And that is a different experience.
Yes.
And I was not prepared for that different water parameter. And my fish suffered as a result.
Yeah.
So that's another thing of, if you live on a municipal water supply, just keep an eye on what their policies are so that you don't do a water change at a bad time.
Yeah, when they're flushing the system.
Yeah, you don't want to do it when they're dealing with major maintenance on their system. Someone asked if they order online, can they pick up local? So
yes.
How does one go about buying from Brooklyn Hardscape?
There's actually an option, a checkout, pick up. If you're shipping though, don't choose pick up. Stop doing that. It's not that hard.
Yeah, so people can come into this shop if they want.
Oh yeah, you just gotta make an appointment. If you ring the doorbell and try to come in, chances are we won't let you in. Only because we also do installs, we do deliveries. Right now it's a 1.5 man operation.
So you're not always here.
I'm
Sometimes
not always
you're doing work somewhere else.
And it's New York City, so if I'm doing a delivery in Midtown, it's going to take me sometimes 4 hours.
Right. So make an appointment beforehand, but you can do pickups. You can
Absolutely.
check out all of these tanks in person if you're in the New York area. And you can also order online and have it shipped if you don't live in the
And I
New York
love
area.
visitors, don't get me wrong. I don't mean to be so stern. I love when people come in. Also, if you want to do a pickup, I prefer when we have our open houses to do pickups. It's a little bit easier.
And that's once monthly. Kevin does a once monthly open house on, is it Friday evenings?
Yeah, Friday evenings at 7 o'clock. This month it's the 18th.
Yeah. So mark your calendars if you're in the New York area. Come check out all of these tanks in person.
I'm going to do a tutorial on thermoplastics, I think.
Cool. Yeah, because that's not something that I think most people are familiar with. I'm going to go back to a tank that we saw at the very beginning of this live stream because I think it's my favorite of the three tanks.
I like it. It's okay.
You like it, it's okay. I was really concerned that he was going to tear it down.
Well, the light that was on it died on Monday, and I've been like struggling with it. I didn't want to throw it away. I have to be honest with you.
Well, I'm glad you didn't.
Well, there's a new light coming Monday, so.
So, hold on, bear with me, and boom. So, for those of you that are just joining, this is one of the tanks in our lovely shop at Brooklyn Hardscape. This tank is less than 10 gallons. I think it's around 9.5 gallons, something like that.
For some reason, I think it's a little more, like 12 gallons, but I'm really stupid.
I think it's smaller, but I could be wrong. It's a really cool little tank, and it uses a hardscape material that is less common in the hobby. I mean,
I really try to not use like serious stuff.
Yeah, I'm looking
it's
around
10
like
gallons, you were right.
Kevin's got hardscape over here. I mean, his company name is Brooklyn Hardscape, so he's got Dragonstone here. But this tank, it's not using Dragonstone or Cirrus stone. It's using a stone that's more natural.
I'm hoping people want
the environment, which I really, really love. I really love this look. Plus, it plays with light in a really striking way.
I like having a black background with the black stone, so I think it looks nice. I don't normally like black backgrounds. I don't really despise them, but I think this looks nice.
Yeah. How do you deal with algae in a tank like this? Because, I mean, especially when you're talking about such smooth rock surfaces, they're going to show algae pretty
I don't get
easily.
algae.
So, wow. All right. How don't you get algae?
Oh, I get algae. I get algae all the time. The tank right behind me has a problem with BBA right now.
Blackbeard algae.
Yep. Only because I keep letting the water level drop. Speaking of inconsistent CO2.
Yeah.
Because of the position of the tank, it evaporates a lot of water.
Well, that makes me ask another question, which is, all of your tanks are rimless.
Mm-hmm.
Looking around, well, not all of them, but all of the tanks that are not storage tanks are rimless. They don't have glass tops on them.
Right.
So you're dealing with a fair amount of evaporation, aren't you?
Evaporation, and my neighbor is a wood shop, so we also sometimes get we've sealed as much as we can, but still sometimes dust will get through, like sawdust. So dealing with algae, we constantly, algae's a constant battle. We just have to be vigilant. You see it, you pull it out. I hit it with peroxide, sometimes extra water changes. You just monitor lean dosing fertilizers until I'm sure like what the tank needs.
Yeah.
Like this tank, it's a pretty even dose. I'm actually dosing the Tropica Premium, because it's by the window. There's a lot of nutrients that are like just crap that comes into the window. So it's just, honestly, again, it just comes down to observation.
So I have a question on that, which, you know what, I'm gonna ask Todd's question before I ask mine, because I'll remember mine and I'll forget Todd's.
Food is on the way.
They have Rotella that grows beautiful red without CO2 and green with CO2. Any idea why?
Oh, wait, what kind of Rotella is it?
I don't know.
It doesn't seem to make sense.
Well, I'm sure that this is not the answer to your question, because you lose a lot of light all of a sudden. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, the grow out tanks.
Gotcha. So we're suddenly much darker. Anyway, you were talking about how different lights impact the colors of plants, and I'm sure that's not what's happening with you, Todd. But it's an interesting.
Yeah, I mean that goes against the rule of anthocyanins.
And what is the rule of anthocyanins?
Heavy nutrients, heavy light. Basically, the easiest way to explain why a plant turns red is like it's getting sunburned. It's a way for it to process excess light. And also with high iron, and like humans need higher iron. So do plants. There's a lot of energy being expelled, and they need to heal a lot. So yeah, red is a little bit little bit contributed by iron, but mostly you're trying to give the plant a sunburn.
The rotella is Rotella indica. Sounds like it's just pop.
I mean, Rotella indica, it's mislabeled a lot, but I've gotten Rotella indica to turn red, but only under highlight. Normally it's a bright green with a darker green by the stem under low light in like low tech situations.
Sounds like you've stumped us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hard pump siphon or not? Recommend? Oh, a hand pump siphon or not? Yeah.
Yes. Don't. I mean, you know. Oh, there's so many jokes there. Being good.
This was the rule.
Yes. So, like, you know, doing the classic like suck and siphon. If you have a hand pump siphon, then you don't have to suck on the tube. Like that's fine. Yeah, I should do that. Don't.
Do you use a Python?
I use a Python, but for the smaller tanks, it's not worth it.
Yeah. Oh, that's an interesting question. What are the best plants for blackwater setups? Gareth asked that question.
I mean, if you're talking about biotopes, most blackwater don't have much.
Yeah.
The blackwater, I mean, mosses work really well as long as you keep the mosses clean. Floaters are a good way to like control tannins from getting out of control.
That's so. If you ever do any snorkeling in bogs, which I've done, I don't know if you'd recommend that because most of the bogs that I've snorkeled in also have alligators in them.
I hate alligators.
Yeah, I mean they're not the best. They're really cool, but not the best if you want to like look at stuff underwater.
Not as bad as canyons.
Yeah, there's some really beautiful floating plants that grow in bogs that are just gorgeous. And their root systems are awesome. And if you don't,
root floaters.
Yeah, if you don't want something that's, if you can't get something really easily, one of the nice ones is water lettuce, right? That sold at like pawn shops. During the summer, it reproduces like crazy. It'll block out all the light in your tank, but it has beautiful, beautiful roots. So it's a different take on a blackwater
I like
system.
red root floaters are all that I use when it comes to floaters. I'm very biased.
I think swords often grow in blackwater in the Amazon, but I might be wrong.
It's a good question. I don't have a complete answer for you.
Yeah,
I don't like blackwater tanks. I'm about to do one. I'm planning on doing one.
I really like them. I think biotopes are super cool, and making a really beautiful biotope is a challenge and something that's interesting and fun. Shameless plug for my own work that's not actually mine. My friend Nick has let me film a couple of his tanks, most recently the oyster tank, but also a blackwater tank, back I think last May or April. I really, really love that setup. There's no live plants in it. It's all dead leaves, but it's really, really cool. I'm going to go full screen again.
Well, I should probably talk to him because I've been experimenting with different companies' humic acids.
Crypts are good for blackwater.
Oh, I didn't even think of crypts, but yeah. I think I just saw a crypt Dario biotope with crypts in it.
Well, I know the answer to this question, so I'm going to ask it. Have you ever used moss balls in aquascaping?
Yes, recently in a live aquascaping contest.
Tell us about that. Were they still balls by the time you were done with them?
No, I was in a bad mood though. So can I talk about how I was in a bad mood?
I don't think we should talk about why you were in a bad mood.
No, not why, but I was not good in a good mood. I had a booth at Aquatic Experience, but I was also competing.
He was overcommitting himself to things.
Yes. Some people didn't come through, so I had to like do it all myself. And so I brought my competition tank over to the booth, and I built up my hardscape, and then I just ripped the moss balls apart, glued them, and then chucked them at the rock, and wherever they stuck, that's where they stayed.
Yeah. So the nice thing about moss balls is that you can rip them apart, and they're fine. They're microalgae.
Yeah.
But
don't eat them.
Wasn't a concern that I had, but yeah, don't eat them. I mean, they're
I just got that question. Like somebody emailed me that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you were getting a different live stream than I was.
Somebody asked if you could eat them.
They grow super slowly. I mean, I think it's like several millimeters a year or something like that.
They only grow in cold water though.
Yeah.
So you have to like put them in your fridge for a little while, or like put them by a cold window, and they'll grow. But like when they're warm, they don't grow.
Yeah.
I think I could be wrong, but that's what I was told.
So basically, where you put them is where they're going to stay, and they're going to look exactly as ugly as they look when you put them there. So put them there with grace and carefully.
The ones I saw in Iceland were huge.
You saw them in nature? That's awesome. So yeah, I mean, if you don't know, moss balls are native to Iceland and Japan.
Greenland.
Yeah, I didn't know Greenland, but I did know Iceland and Japan. And they're struggling in a lot of those locations because they're being over-harvested and the ecosystem is changing, which is too bad. But they're very cool little creatures, little microalgae. Yeah, do we have any other tools that we need to show off? Cool, so you've got two little pincettes. One's doing a real jiggle. What is the advantage of those two?
Different strokes for different folks. Okay, so for these are good for, like, one of the ways I find that straight and then scissors for trimming. You hold the stem, cut it. Hold the stem, cut it. Hold the stem, cut it.
Huh.
It's a good way to. I also find these are great for planting like hair grass or like small bunches of plants. This is more for planting stems. I like to hold it like that, put the stem in, get under, always plant stems at an angle. Like they're just multiple tools. If I had to be stuck with one, this would always be the one that I'd be stuck with. But I used to criticize people who had like a dozen tools. Now that I have a dozen tools, I found out I actually use all of them.
Yeah. So here's a question for you. I'm putting them on the spot. I used to have access to metal shops and wood shops, which I really loved, and my wood shop and metal shop closed down, and now I'm kind of at a loss. I'm going somewhere with this. I would take my pincets, my little tweezers, and I would take them to the metal shop, and I would grind them down into sharp points, because I don't like these dull points on my pincets. Do you know of anyone that sells sharp?
There are a couple companies that sell sharp ones. I don't know the sharp ones, but
why are the dull
safety
ones? It's
safety issue. Yeah, I mean, I don't want sharp ones. I believe the Seachem ones are kind of sharp, aren't they?
I don't know.
I think they are, but I've definitely stabbed myself a lot because I like to put them in my back pocket.
Yeah, I sharpened mine down to the point where they could actually draw blood by just.
I remember you telling me that in a Big Fish Deal.
Yeah, I really like them because I am cheap, and I like to make my hair grass go as far as humanly possible.
Okay.
So what I will do is I'll get a little cup of hair grass, and with my really, really fine pincets, I'll be able to plant stems a lot more effectively, in my experience, than with the bulkier ones, because I basically break down my hair grass down to like a few blades of grass and just a little bit of root system.
I like to do that too.
And I find that the bulky ones just aren't as effective. ADA pincets are sharp. Thanks, Jen. I will look into buying $1,000 pincets. What? ADA is quite pricey.
Oh,
that's all I'm saying.
I think the pincets are the only thing that I like of ADA. I'm not a big ADA product guy.
I've never come in contact with ADA, so I can't speak on any capacity on it.
If I have anything that I haven't given away, I'll check and see. I'll just give you some.
I think if anyone else has any other questions, I think we are nearing the conclusion of our live stream. Is there anything else you want to show people that's really cool in this space?
I don't know. That tank's going to be all red.
That is cool.
Nothing but red. I think somebody asked me, yes, that's the filter's an old ADA filter. It is an Iwaki motor on there. See anything else? I guess that's it.
I am going to force this a little bit longer because I'm going to show you guys the Bonsai tank for just a second as a transition because I want to show you one other tank and I don't want to have the laptop moving around frantically while I make that happen. So, boom, oh my gosh, it's a transitional video. Let's get this box. You're going to hear me moving stuff around. So, oh no, I've dropped everything. Okay, I've dropped everything.
What we doing?
I'm going to show them this tank that we're not going to say what it is until I figure out how to make it appear on screen. Okay, I think I've got us situated. All this noise is really pretty aggressive. Kevin, want to take a seat?
Okay, 1 sec. I'm actually scared of my fishes.
Yeah, I know. They're all having a rough time of it. Okay, boom. Look at that. It's okay. Neither one of us are in the shot. So this is Kevin's cylindrical tank.
You know, when you're filming it, you clean the glass.
It's fine. Sorry that we're going to have to lean over a little bit. This will be an awkward transition or conclusion to this live stream.
I'll feed these. They come out.
So this tank is, how big is this? It looks like it's maybe
5.5 gallons.
Is it really that big? I would have guessed smaller. So this is a little cylindrical tank, which poses its own unique problems. With cylindrical tanks, you end up with a lot of distortion. You end up with a lot of the scape has to be pretty from a lot of angles, and there's no central location that you're looking at it.
No, the hardscape has to be a minimum of an 1 3/4 inches from the glass, or it gets distorted.
Right. So you're talking about a situation where you're really trying to scape something pretty complicated. So why did you decide to go with setting up this tank? What drew you to building a cylindrical tank?
Somebody told me I couldn't.
Was it me?
But there was some trash talk involved, and
yeah. So I thought this was just a really cool tank. This will be another tank that I film before we leave, so this won't be the only view that you get of it. Where did you get this tank?
This is a Cobalt Aquatics.
So it actually is made by an aquarium company.
Mm-hmm. And they had it on sale. It was like 50% off. I got like an email that it was on sale, and I was like, screw it.
Cool. The reason why I'm surprised by that is I often see glass jars like this at discount home goods stores. Mm-hmm. Like, I can't remember any of the names of them, where they'll sell them for real cheap. The glass is a little bit thinner than this glass is, but not dramatically. I don't think that you would run into major problems. The only problem that you might run into is the clarity of the glass is better on this. There's less distortion because the glass is pretty consistent all around. But it's kind of a cool twist on an aquarium that could go in a lot of places and maybe not feel quite as intrusive as a traditional aquarium does. So I thought that was kind of a cool conclusion to this. Any other questions on this? I don't think so. So I think this is where we will end it. If you have made it all the way through here and for some reason you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing. And if you want to support Kevin and the hard work that he's doing, go visit brooklynhardscape.com and see if there's anything on his website that you would like in your personal collection.
We also do special orders.
Yeah. So anything
so weird to like.
Right?
I give up. Just look at my logo. That's like the best part.
Yeah, the best part of him. Are there any advantages to straight scissors before we go?
I use straight scissors for all kinds of stuff, especially mowing down. I do a lot of creative stuff like hedging with stems, and straight scissors are great to get a 45-degree angle. There's like dozens of uses. It's just a tool for the situation. It's like anything. Like, why would you use a hammer drill versus a regular drill? It's the same mentality.
Yeah. Is there any problems for the fish in this tank? Are they bothered by the distortion of the glass?
I don't see any problems.
Yeah.
I do know that the CPDs love this setup.
Yeah, so this tank is filled with little CPDs. They're very cool. So as I said, I will also include Kevin's social handles. Kevin, what is your Instagram account? You guys should go follow him.
I'm Brooklyn Hardscape, and then Twitter is BK Hardscape, but it's all the same.
Yeah, so I will link to all of that in the description. I'm sorry I didn't before we went to this video. I just linked his website.